And I call the clerk.
Private members' business, notice number 4, Commonwealth Electoral Amendment, Stop the Lies Bill 2021.
I call the member for Warringah.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I present the Commonwealth Electoral Amendment, Stop the Lies Bill 2021 and the explanatory memorandum.
And I call the clerk.
First reading, a bill for an act to amend the Commonwealth Electoral Act 1918 and for related purposes.
I call the member for Warringah.
Thank you. I move that this bill now be read a second time. Democracies and truth go hand in hand, but democracies are fragile, and we've seen the power of misinformation at the 2020 US presidential election and in the aftermath. We're seeing the same style of misinformation and preying on conspiracy theories by a number of players in our political landscape. In order to safeguard our democracy and empower our citizens to participate in an informed way, we need to ensure that politicians and political campaigners and third-party groups are held to the same standards as everyone else. This might seem logical, but as we see time and time again, political parties and their affiliates are all too happy to tell lies about candidates and policies of the other side and mislead the public without consequence. We are at risk of a democratic crisis in which election campaigns are increasingly battlegrounds of competing disinformation campaigns, which will continue to erode the public trust in institutions, in trust in government, and the trust in our democratic process itself. That's why I'm introducing the Stop the Lies Bill, which amends the Commonwealth Electoral Act to make it an offence to publish misleading or deceptive content in political advertising relating to an election. Public trust in politicians and the political system is plummeting at the moment. Just 1 in 4 Australians have confidence in their political representatives. By 2025, if the trend continues, only 10% of the public would trust in us, in politicians. We must reverse this trend. It is absolutely incumbent on every member of this place. Just this morning, an open letter to this Parliament was published and signed by prominent legal experts and respected former justices and judges, unanimous in calling for laws to ensure truth in political advertising are passed. Why do we need truth in political advertising? Well, each election, a number of advertisements, claims are made about candidates, parties, associated campaign groups, and they're published and they're untrue. They're not based on any actual facts, and they're designed to mislead or deceive the voter about the position or platform of an opposing candidate. And it's causing an erosion of trust in our political system that we really must take stop. Without action or regulation, there will be a democratic crisis in which election campaigns are increasingly battlegrounds of competing disinformation campaigns, and that erosion will continue. It is so important for our democracy that voters are actually told facts that are based on, that has to be based on truth. This bill goes a long way to ensuring that our political debates are argued on a factual basis. The bill implements safeguards in Australia against misleading and deceptive advertising. In its definition of publishing, the Stop the Lies Bill includes print, radio, television, telephone or internet. The bill establishes that the Australian Electoral Commission is the responsible body for regulation, and that the AEC is an established and trusted body that already has a role in regulating elections and advertising related to elections. Similar truth in political advertising laws already exist in South Australia and the ACT, and they've given their electoral commissioners the power to regulate. The Stop the Lies Bill continues that precedent. If the electoral commissioner is satisfied that the proposed act has been breached, then they can direct the person to not further publish or spread the misleading material further, and the Commissioner can also require a correction to be published by the person or group that first breached the law. Financial penalty may also be applied. Both in South Australia and the ACT, truth in political advertising laws have worked. They've been in place for some time. It acts as a very important deterrent. It ensures the standards are raised. This is why it's so important to legislate. The bill actively protects free speech and safeguards the ability of Australians to engage in the political debate. The marketplace of ideas only functions properly when the flow of information is actually true. Disinformation impacts upon the efficiency of the marketplace of ideas, reducing our ability to engage constructively and make informed decisions. Australian consumer laws do not permit businesses to make incorrect statements or those likely to create a false impression, even if the business's intention is not to mislead. There are strict laws governing financial advice. Pharmaceutical manufacturers cannot, for example, say their product cures something that it does not. Food companies cannot claim that sugary foods are good for children or other things. Lawyers can't guarantee that the outcomes or will win every personal injury case. The same standards should be applied in this place. How can we say what the truth is? People are always worried, isn't it subjective or is it a slippery slope? In Australia, numerous laws and regulations and codes already regulate the truth and whether or not someone can publish misleading or deceptive content. Australian consumer laws do not permit businesses to make incorrect statements or those likely to create false impressions. And the public deserves the same standard of truthfulness that they get from businesses, if not a higher one, from MPs and political parties. Many Australians will remember many of the prominent cases of disinformation in political advertising that we've experienced of recent years, from Mediscare from the ALP in 2016 to the death taxes by the Coalition in 2019 to the fake signs misdirecting people in the colours of the AEC. We're seeing impersonation of possible impersonation through deep fakes, and that absolutely must be stopped. Truth in political advertising is paramount to democracy, and voters universally want this. 87% of voters want truth in political advertising. It doesn't matter if they are voters for Coalition or voters for ALP, they want this legislation to be enacted. So I urge the members of this place to debate and vote. Think about the standards that you are prepared to accept. It's time to raise the bar.